preferences here. Randy can see when I hit record now.
I don't know what to do with my hands. Do I keep them up or
Well,
I'll just hold them down on my side?
You keep doing what you keep, going down the path you're doing. You're probably going to be in front of a lot of cameras. So
that's right.
You may want to prepare your heart for that.
Yeah, right. I'll chat GPT it real quick. What to do with hands in front of camera.
You know what's really scary about that is, we're getting to the generation where all of our doctors are going to be trained by Chat GPT. So that's terrifying on another level.
See, they always say C's get degrees, but I kind of want like the class nerd in the doctor school. Like, I'm like, hey, I want you to be the one that didn't really have a social life, that studied and knew everything, answered all the questions. Like, in that aspect, I need you to make sure that I'm going to be taken care of.
I was a C+ man myself. So, Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. We're so glad that you're here. I'm sitting, way incredibly too close to Randy, but there's a reason for that. And it is tonight, we have a very special guest with us. He was a former student of mine. When I met him, he was in the 7th grade. Yes, we have stories. He's been the star of many of our stories on the podcast. He has since then, since the 7th grade, he's grown up. He's been in law enforcement. He's been in military, and now he's making a run for Congress. So there's a lot happening. Suddenly I feel,
really old because you said he was in 7th grade.
Oh, well, I didn't feel old until you just pointed that out. I was going to say I feel underaccomplished, but yes, we'll go with old too.
That too.
Yeah. But this is he was in my wedding as one of my groomsmen. This is the one and only Sawyer. Welcome to the podcast, Sawyer.
Welcome.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here. And Randy, don't worry, I'll get your contact information. As many stories as he shared about me, the only thing I can do in return is share a few about him. So we'll make sure to get some of those out there and set the record straight on some of these too.
Thank you. I need that because I'm starting to question some of them now.
Is that like mutually assured destruction? Is that what that is?
That's right. Yeah.
I still have some pictures of you that are probably embarrassing that I have just in case I need them for. Me, I'm used to being embarrassed to myself. So
look, he's making this congressional run. My wife's got some recordings on her phone for a certain price.
I need to get that NDA up there.
Go away.
Get that signed.
Well, buddy, man, we're so glad you're here. You're streaming all the way in from the great state of Mississippi. I like your backdrop there.
Yeah,
thank you, man.
Looks like duck stamp.
That's right. It started with my granddad, and when he passed away, I was able to get it. It's every duck stamp that the state of Mississippi has issued since the 1960s or 70s. I'll have to look at what's the first one. 67. And he's collected all of them. When he passed, I got to collect all of them, and some of his duck calls, and actually a few of the original Duck Commander models back before it became a TV show, and back when it was out of their shed. So it's been, I was trying to figure what's the best place to do an outdoor show on. And I figured the kitchen table probably wasn't the best. So I came into the office and figured I'd find a good background for it.
Yeah. Maybe if, later on the show, we'll get you to blow one of them duck calls. We'll see if that, how that sounds,
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you blow yours and then I'll pull mine out and we'll compare.
Oh yeah. There we go. We have a deal. Well, Sawyer, you've been the source of, many stories on the podcast. Some of them I named you, some of them I didn't. But really did get to meet you in the 7th grade. One thing you need to know about Sawyer, in the 7th grade, he was about 75 pounds soaking wet.
With 10-pound weights in my pocket.
10-pound weights in his pocket. We were kind of worried at one. There was a photo, and you probably know which one I'm talking about. I think we did some kind of inflatable or something at the church, and Sawyer is like going down the inflatable, and you could see every rib in his body, like as he's going down this thing. Yeah. And we're like, man, give that kid a sandwich. Like, what is happening here?
Were you part of a family that you had to eat what you catch and you couldn't catch anything?
No,
he did have a lot of siblings to fight food over.
That doesn't help.
And I'll tell you the best thing I've learned as a parenting skill. So my friend's mom. So there was a family that My older brother, he had an older brother the same age. My older sister, he had an older brother the same age. Me and my twin sister were the same age as him, and they had a younger brother. It was the Smith family. And my best friend, Logan Smith, we were at his house one day, and there's this big piece of cake. And his mom was like, okay, Sawyer, you get to cut the cake however you want. So I think I'm smart, right? I'm a seventh grade kid, and Josh is being very kind. I was a terrible kid. If me walked into the youth ministry now, I'd probably
Just
stop
wait.
serving. Yeah. But I walk in and I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to cut a big piece of this cake because I'm hungry and I want it. So I cut the cake very unevenly. Well, then she looks at Logan and goes, okay, Logan, you get to pick which piece of cake you get to eat. And my face dropped. And I was like, I thought I had this
Oh.
whole thing planned out. But nope, nope. The next time I brought a ruler out, I was like, I'm cutting it straight down the middle. Nobody's getting an uneven piece. So I'll take that into my parenting years from now.
You were bamboozled very quickly.
Absolutely.
Very, very quickly. Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, and Sawyer, yeah, there were some behavioral things that was going on back then. Every new student pastor has to have that one kid that they kind of cut their teeth. And what I mean by that is by keep their mom on speed dial.
Yeah, yeah.
We did used to have a trip when we would go on trips. There was this thing called the man van, and the man van was driven by another student pastor, much older and wiser one, guy by the name of Byron. And Sawyer always got the privilege of riding in the man van. So that was where
I thought it was a privilege. As
he
I'm older,
thought it
I'm
was,
like, no,
well,
they
he
needed to
didn't
keep
realize
an
it may
eye
have
on.
been a punishment.
Yeah. I was like, oh, cool. I get to ride in the man van. And then I was like, oh, they needed to keep an eye on me to make sure I wasn't doing anything I shouldn't have been doing.
What point in time did you figure that out? Is when you noticed the other guys that were in there with you?
No, it was in college when Byron told me. I was like, yeah, where's the man? Like, I love the man van. He was like, well, yeah, like, I'm glad that you got to grow out of that. He was like, well, yeah, we brought you in there. That way we could keep an eye on you. And I was like, oh, okay. Because we
That is
actually went back to
fantastic.
Arlington, Texas this year. And what was funny was I was approached by our student pastor. Said, hey, man, you're basically an employee of the church at this point. I've been going to the same church since I was a few months old. And he was like, we need you to drive. You're the only staff member or non-staff member that will be driving a van to Mission Arlington for us. And so I just started cracking up and I was like, the man van's back and I'm segregated again. I'm off.
Full circle.
Yeah,
Full
off
circle.
on my own. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, buddy, I'm gonna give you some time here. I'd love for you to be able to tell our listeners, tell us about your story. Um, you've been through some crazy times. You've been through some hard times. But one thing I can say about you, and we'll get all the meaningful stuff out of the way at first, so it's not weird. Is since I met you in the seventh grade, you were a seventh grader, so there's that. But man, you've been pursuing after God since then, at least since then when I met you. And you've been on quite the journey. And so share a little bit about that, and just give our listeners kind of a view into who you are.
Sure, I appreciate it, man. And after you asked me to come on the show, I realized I've never actually shared my full blown story and testimony. So I thank you for the opportunity to do this and to dive into it. It'll be a little bit uncomfortable for me. I love talking, but I do also get uncomfortable talking about me. So I'll try my best and feel free to share any gaps that I may have left out. But I brought up, I'm born and raised here in Hattiesburg. In Venture Church, back when it was First Baptist Hattiesburg. When I was just a few months old, we started going there. My mom and dad got divorced when I was one and a half. And so I grew up in a broken house. Back when I was in second or third grade, mom remarried, dad remarried, and it was fourth grade. It was 2005. We were at Vacation Bible School. And the 2 years prior, like I heard our pastor Jeff talk about what it meant to accept Jesus and what it looked like. And I had piqued my interest, but I was young. I didn't really have an understanding, didn't really know what it meant. And well, fourth grade year, it finally clicked. I was normally goofing off or playing with the piece of paper in the sanctuary when he was talking, or just not paying attention, because I was like, man, when's snack time? Like, let's go do some snack and rec time. This year was the first year that I was
They're
like,
solid options.
yeah, right. I was like, all right, let me listen. And so I listened to him present the gospel, and I knew in my heart, I was like, all right, this is definitely what I need to do. And so I accepted Christ in 2005 and got baptized a few months later. And it was a thing that I did because I knew I needed to. But it wasn't really until high school that I realized, well, it's more about just accepting. I mean, I started helping, but every time the church was open, I'd be there, whether it was Bible drill, whether it was vacation Bible school. We had this thing at church called Summer Mission Interns, which also I realized was just another ploy for free labor from the church. Once a week, we'd show up and work all day.
Easy,
And they gave us some
easy.
free
And we
pizza.
made it sound fun.
Yeah, they did. And it was fun. It was a blast.
Hey
But
guys, we're gonna turn this game. Set up all these chairs,
yeah, who
and
can
I'll give
set
you
up the
pizza
most
afterwards.
chairs? You get a high five. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting that high five. Um, so we ended up just every chance I could get. I will say on that side, my mom did her best to make sure when the church doors were open, we were there. So I'll give her a lot of credit on that. And growing up, we kind of didn't get to see my dad a lot. High school is when I kind of started trying to build that relationship with him, and he's been fantastic ever since. One of my biggest supporters. And but in high school, I started trying to serve, and I served on our production team, whether it was cameras, lights, graphics. Moved over to preschool, to children's ministry. Then, whenever I grew a little bit more, I became a student leader in the student ministry. Whether you're working in a parking lot team, I mean, just every aspect of the church that I could get involved in, I did, and that kind of started my growth in my faith. And then my servant side kind of started taking hold, and I realized that was a um, really big gift that I got from God, was just my servant side. And working on the farm with my granddad up in Jones County, I wake up early, stay late, bale the hay, feed the chickens, take care of the goats. Just a huge impact in my life, both my grandparents. And in high school, things kind of started going a little bit downhill. I had my mom got divorced again, and so my stepdad, who had been part of my life for 8 or 9 years, who had cystic fibrosis, loved him to death. They kind of separated their ways, and then I got to go to college, and I put myself through college. I had multiple jobs in college. One of them was thankfully at the church. I worked with my boss, Nick Cook, and between Nick, Josh, he came in seventh grade for me, and our new youth pastor, Seth Connerly. Those four guys right there helped me make it through some of the toughest times, and kind of helped guide me in the right path. Because in high school, I grew on that servant side and trying to learn a little bit more about my faith. But in college, I realized that I needed to take my faith outward, and so I was doing a lot more trying to invite people to church, trying to take care of other people, and trying to live that outward side. And about 2 years into my college career, my mom had met this guy out in California, and I was living at William Carey. I'd attended William Carey for about 2 years, and she brought this guy back to the house that we didn't really know. So I approached her about it. I was like, "Hey, this guy's living in the house with you and my two sisters. I don't feel comfortable." And a huge fight kind of ensued, and not physical, but just verbal. And she told us, "Get out. I never want to see you again. Get out of the house." And so me and my twin sister left, and my first call was Josh. Um, and Josh came and picked me and my twin up, or met us at now his wife's house. It was his girlfriend at the time, Casey's house. And they came and met us there, and Casey stayed with Rose, and Josh just took me and drove me around. We went and drove through some woods and out around town, and just gave an opportunity to cool off. And there was there's some long term issues there, and I'd always had a difficult life, and but that kind of compounded it. I really was out on my own, and my church family surrounded me. And in fact, that year at Christmas time, our youth pastor Seth, his parents, we call them Big Bev and Big Don, invited me and my twin after Christmas service to stay at their house, and they had a very big Christmas for us. We woke up the next morning just expecting to eat and leave, and their whole family had pitched in and got us some gifts, and it was very sweet. And Big Don was kind of who I realized was who I strove to be in life, on my spiritual side. 100%. He was one of the kindest men, and it was really funny. So he was known for notoriously not answering his phone. Text, call, it didn't matter. And somehow he chose me as the one that he would always answer. And so to test that theory, we were sitting in, I think it was Josh's office one day, and Seth was saying something about, I can't get an answer from my dad. I was like, oh, I'll call him real quick. And he was like, well, he won't answer you. Second ring, picks up, hey, Sawyer, how you doing? And Seth just threw up his hands and like was like, whatever. And so it was really funny. But working there at the church, Josh was kind of our guy that we built these crazy sets. And spending that time outside with Josh, he probably doesn't even realize it, but just doing a lot of the carpentry work. One, a lot of those things are still used in the church today because of how sturdy he built them. And when I say sturdy, insert heavy as an alternate word there.
I know one way to build, and it's
That's
with
right.
with with 2x4 studs and plywood. So,
That's right.
and I was just
But
trying not to shoot you with a nail gun.
that's right, which was valid. I probably was just talking on and on, and so we spending some time out there with him, and it wasn't even necessarily like, hey, all we're talking about is scripture, but things would be brought up, and I had questions, and Josh was a great help, and Seth was a great help, and Big Don was a great help in answering those, and Byron Malone, and Nick. Like, again, those guys just kind of built my spiritual life. And each and every one of those guys has been somebody that I've looked up to spiritually. So in college, I met a girl, and I was super excited because, that fell head over heels. And we dated for a few years, and we got engaged for a few years. And after I graduated college, I moved on to do maritime law enforcement. I had a criminal justice degree. So I ended up becoming a kind of like a game warden, highway patrol, and a maritime patrol guy, all thrown together. And I also ended up just doing some task force stuff with the U.S. Marshals, the DEA, Secret Service, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, just a few places like that. COVID happened about a year into my marriage, and about another year, I walked in after playing golf with some of her family members, and she kind of told me that she wasn't happy and she didn't want to keep going down this path, and kind of ended things with me. So it kind of took
Yeah.
me by surprise, and it was something that, it wasn't my plan for sure, but it was God's plan, and so we both went our separate ways, and um, again, I thought I had this perfect little life set up, and but again, it wasn't the path that God had chosen for me to walk down, and it was some really dark times for me because I just kind of fell into some depression and didn't know what to do and what it looked like, and the world's ending, and what am I gonna be able to do? And um, in fact, one of the first calls that I made, I think I texted, was Josh and Seth, because I was like, hey, I don't know what to do, and I think they both ended up calling and praying over me. So didn't really know what to do. I had moved from working full-time state law enforcement into working for a congressman down here on Mississippi Gulf Coast. I was his dignitary protection detail and field director, and we were sitting in a meeting or in a hearing, and the Army kind of told us, hey, there's a 40,000 soldier shortfall in our recruiting numbers. Like, we are desperate. We need people. And I had always looked up to military men and wanted to join. Both my grandfathers were in. We have history dating back to the Civil War of almost every military engagement. We have family members that have fought in those engagements, and so I was like, "Hey, it's my time.
Huge.
I've got kind of nothing holding me back or tying me down. Like, I need to put my thought into something." And it was growing in my faith and joining the military. So I was able to go to Fort Jackson for basic training. Came back and did officer candidate school. And in that time, the congressman had lost his reelection. So I went to work for our university as a fundraiser for them. Spent a few years doing that, and went through officer school, became a military intelligence officer with the Army National Guard here in the great state of Mississippi. So I'm based out of Camp Shelby, which is kind of my home base. It's right outside of Hattiesburg, where I was born and raised, and moved back up to the Hattiesburg area. And I've been doing a lot of fundraising for USM the past couple years, and really tried to grow my faith, and it's a continual effort. It's something that I've had to find our youth pastor, our old youth pastor Byron, kind of told me, he was like, "Hey, you always need a Moses and an Aaron," and I had no idea what that meant. And he was like, "Hey, I mean, just to be honest,
That
uh,
sounds wise. Please explain.
yeah, I was like, oh yeah, Moses and Aaron, um, cool. What is that?" And so he kind of, what he did was he explained to me, he's like, "Hey, you always need somebody pouring into you, and you need to find somebody to pour into." Kind of that trickle down effect. And so
Mm,
I'd been looking, and it ended up being like a board of people. So I've had everybody from one of the guys that worked at USM, Jerry DeFata. He's served as one of our elders at our church. I would go to him for life advice and just questions and things like that. And um, he was kind of one of the bigger ones. And then at church, I had a few people that I would see and reach out to and ask questions. And it was just something that I've always tried to grow in my faith. And Byron's been one of those continual ones just because I see him a lot. So it started too, like in college, I had never read through the Bible. I'd read parts of the Bible, but I'd never read the whole thing. And this sounds terrible about making a mistake while you're reading the Bible, but I would start in Genesis. And man, I know that it's the Bible and it's supposed to be good, but by Leviticus, I was like, yeah, I'm out. I don't understand this. I don't get it. And Josh is now
so you
regretting
actually
bringing me
made
onto a podcast, but um,
you you
I
you
was
actually
like,
made it through Numbers.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah. And so Byron told me, he was like, "Well, hey, here's what I want you to do: start in Matthew. Just do a chapter a day, because by the time you finish Revelations, there's going to be a rhythm that you set." And so I did. I read a chapter a day. Well, the time I finished it was literally in the middle of my separation from my ex. And there was a guy that
Mm.
was going to our church. His name was Bailey Woods. And he had told me just out of the blue, he's, "Man, I've never read the Bible all the way through. Hey, man, I just finished it. Let's do it again. Let's run it back." So we are now in Psalms. We're in Psalms 132 this morning, to where each day what we do is we check in. It may be something that we got from Scripture, something that stood out to us. It may be just a single verse that we just highlight. Or it's been a few mornings, especially when we get back into the Old Testament, of, "Hey, man, I have no idea what this means. Who can we call? Who can we text? Can we chat
What did I
GGP
just
this?"
read?
Yeah. So Blake Houston has been somebody we've called multiple times. Byron's been somebody I've texted. Josh is about to get added back into that rotation. And so it's just been things that we've been trying to grow in our faith and find those people. And I've gotten back involved leading in our youth ministry. Helped lead one of our mission trips to Mission Arlington. What was great is that military side and law enforcement side. I was one of the leaders with the leaders, to where we had Mission Arlington's this huge organization in Arlington, Texas, that they have thousands of people come through a day needing help or assistance. They have hundreds of apartment ministries spread throughout the Dallas metroplex, and so it may be a 5 square mile neighborhood that we're going door knocking, talking about Christ. So then I became the de facto. All right, your team's going to go here, take off this grid and this streets, and your team's going to go over here. And hey, I want your team at the park. Y'all are going to be doing a little play center, talking about crafts and backyard VBS type stuff. And so it was really, really fun being able to give back. And again, seventh grade Sawyer would never imagine being the leader with our youth pastors looking at me going, "Hey, I trust you and I need help getting this done." But growing in my faith and stepping into that, and there's a long way to go for me. Life, as I have found, I've really related to Job a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll tell you, the guy that's spoken to me the most, and it's because of Josh and Seth. We did in the firing squad of the airsoft that we talked about a couple weeks ago on the podcast. The good
I
part
remember
was
him.
the biblical side, and that was the book of Nehemiah. That was one of the first books that we
Mhm.
went through and did a big deep dive on, and it was about how to be continually in prayer. Because I always did like the Southern Baptist thing. I prayed before my meals and I prayed before I went to bed. Boom, got it. But I realized it was starting to be checkbox Christianity. So one
Mm.
of the things that I did was it was very simple. On my phone, I said, I told Siri, I was like, "Hey, I need you to set a reminder at 10 a.m. and at 2 p.m. to pray." That way I had my breakfast, lunch, and dinners, but that way I also had the time in between. And
Mhm.
so my morning time, I do my devotion and I pray. I do one or for breakfast, mid morning, lunch, mid afternoon, dinner, and nighttime to try and build that rhythm. And it may not be a multi-minute prayer. Sometimes it's just in the moment of, hey Lord, I pray for this meeting I'm about to walk into, or hey, this trip I'm about to go on, or hey Lord, I'm praying for this person that just randomly popped into my head. Um, and so I started doing that a lot and trying to grow in the faith and getting more intentional about reading, not just reading and just going, all right, cool, I read the Bible, but having that moment of, okay, what did you get from the chapter? What did you do? And I did a lot of mission trips over college. I think I had 6 international mission trips to where I tried to really dive into um,
Wow.
giving back and serving others and seeing their needs and how I can help. And it's been a long road. My faith is very important to me. I was asked by a student the other day. They said, "How do you want to be remembered?" And for me, the first thing that I said is, I was like, "Hey, it may sound selfish, but I want to be known as a man of faith." Um, that's something that I think, like, if I can be described in one sentence, that's something that I strive to do. It's something that I want to
Mm.
do. A lot of the pillars of my faith have gone. So last time I saw Josh was unfortunately at a funeral for Big Don, and that
Yeah.
was back in the earlier part of this year. And man, that hit me like a freight train because I didn't expect it, and uh, felt bad because it had been a minute since I've seen him and reached out to him when I moved back up here. Um, but the last time that I had seen Big Don was in the middle of my separation, and um, turns out he was sick then, but he didn't tell me. Um, all he all he cared about was checking on me and making sure
Uh,
I was okay. And that's what I strive to be. I strive to be somebody that cares so much about other people. Um, and he's somebody that I strive to be every day.
mm.
I
Th
mean,
Thanks for sharing that, dude.
yeah. I mean, listening to your story and then knowing that all these men that were in your life that put Jesus at the center of everything changed your projection of life. I mean, if you didn't have that, where would that 7th grade Sawyer be? You know what I mean?
Probably in jail.
And
Yeah.
like you, yeah. And I've said that about me as a kid because I knew what I was like. And if it wasn't for my mom getting remarried and going to Ohio and having the friends that I had that had faith, yeah, I'd I'd be dead or in jail. And so it's amazing. And when somebody like Big Don sick, he's not going to tell you. He knows where he's going. But let me make sure you're going to be okay because you're broken, hurting. But hey, you're going to be here. I won't, but I know where I'm going to be because my eternal life is forever. I'll see you again. But while you're here, let's make sure you're okay
Yeah.
because I know where I'm going. And that to me is a man that can do that is impressive. Because
Yeah.
so many will want to hide when they're hurting or not hurting, but going through something like him, and they just want to hide because they don't want everybody to know. But no, he's just it sounds like he just went through life and just, hey, this is temporary. I'll be okay. Let's
Yeah.
make sure everybody else is okay and understands that and checks on everybody else. That's pretty sweet.
Well, it really does boil down to this. Jesus narrowed this thing down to 2 things, and it was, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's when you surround yourself with those people, and if we're all doing that, right? Not everyone's gonna do that perfectly, but
Yep.
if we're all doing that and we're all, loving God and loving our neighbor, look at the kind of community that creates.
Oh yeah.
Like, you wanna know the secret to, you know, making this world a better place, it's do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
You know, if you go and you do that, I mean, think about how our neighborhoods would be different. Think about how our communities would be different. And man, Sawyer, I love that you shared that because it just goes to further the point. And I've said this before. I think I may have even said it to you before. Of you become the 5 people in your life that you're closest to, you become just like. And if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And the thing is we need that. And so, I will ask you a follow-up question on that, dude. What would you say, and I didn't prepare you for this, so I'm kinda surprise.
Yeah.
Um,
It's getting him prepared for Congress and the
yeah, we're
reporters asking them
there we go.
questions.
We're
Yeah.
see, this is prep for you.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I forgot to mention that part of where I'm at now. But um,
well, and the thing is, man, is what would you say to someone right now who is going through maybe a divorce, or they're going through the loss of a job, or you know, there was a point in time, you didn't share this part, but I remember it very vividly. You could, because your family has that, you know, line of military people. Your brother joined the Marine Corps when he got out of high school, and you know, your grandfather was in the military, and you got all this like lineage of this. And I knew that that was a dream of yours, because that, remember that seventh grade kid used to wear like a U.S. Marine Corps hat everywhere
right.
he went.
Oh,
We finally had to, like, that hat, I think, had to get condemned
yeah,
because you wore it for like
it
5 years
became
straight.
disintegrated. Yeah.
Yeah, it just fell apart. But there was a point in time where, if I remember correctly, it was because of a medical condition or something that you were turned away from the military. And so, what would you say to someone that is in the midst of that? What would you say for them to do? What's their first step? If they're in the midst of something like that.
Yeah, first step is open the Bible and go to church. It's the
Mm,
hardest thing to do. I wanted, in all of these instances, I wanted to stop going to church. I wanted to, because I was like, I don't want anybody to talk to me. I don't want anybody to ask me questions. I don't want anybody to go, "What's wrong?" But going to church and opening the Bible, as cheesy as it sounds, is the first step. So one thing I
yeah.
learned is God's timing. So I had ADHD, which is shocking, I know. Um, but I tried to join the military. I tried to join the Marines right out of high school, and they're like, "Hey, you have prior ADHD. We can't take you." Well, then I tried to go um, to the Army, to the Navy, same thing. So I went to college. I was like, "All right, well, I'll do the college thing, and then I'll go." And after college, I tried to commission. Same thing. They were like, "Nope, hey, can't do it." So then I finally got a congressional waiver and medical waiver, and was able to join. And obviously, with the marriage, failed marriage on my end, it was something that I didn't plan for, and it was one of the hardest truths to learn, that hey, it's because it takes two, and anything in life was, I don't understand it. Why is it happening to me? Like, in my mind, selfishly, I was like, hey, I've done everything right. Like, I show up to church, I volunteer, I've gone on mission trips. Like, why are these bad things happening to me? Why can't I just get what I want? Which again sounds super selfish, and I know how bad that is, but I've come to realize that, hey, maybe some of these things that didn't happen, if I would have joined the Marine Corps right out of high school, all those mission trips I went on, that I helped plant the seeds for people, or help
Mm,
harvest some of them into the kingdom, maybe those people wouldn't have been saved. If I didn't go through some of those things, I've had a few people that have now, and I get to talk with them. I'm like, "Hey, man, I trust me. I know this is the hardest thing that I've ever done, but let me walk through it with you." And sometimes it's not, "Hey, let's talk about it." Sometimes it's literally, "Hey, let's go sit in the hunting stand. Let's go hunt some
uh,
deer. Hey, let's
yeah,
go grab a fishing pole and fish off the bank. Hey, let's go drive around." Or, "Hey, let's just go grab lunch. Let's go play, play a game or something." It's
yeah,
not necessarily always. I think the Christian community is not always about preaching to people. Sometimes it's just being there
mhm,
for them, and that's been modeled well through those five guys that you talk about. And it's something that I want to take moving forward. Like y'all mentioned, so 2 weeks ago I announced my run for U.S. Congress. So I'm running to represent South Mississippi and D.C. And one of the things that I've talked about multiple times in the lead up to this was, hey, one, I don't want my faith to seem disingenuine, but I want to make sure that people understand that I use this platform for my faith. That in
mhm,
everywhere that I am, that I want to make sure that God can be seen through me. And I'm a sinner. I have sins, and I've done things all throughout my life that I'm guilty of. We've all fallen from grace, and I strive every day to do a little bit better and be a little bit better. But I want to make sure that my faith something is something that's evident in what I do. And so that's kind of what I would recommend is just, hey, get involved.
Mm.
Don't be able to slip into the shadows. There's somebody in your life that's going through something. And a lot of them may be going through something you've been through. So even if they seem okay or if they seem like they're doing well, what I try and do is if I find out now, like somebody's going through a divorce, I'll shoot them a text like, "Hey man, you want to grab lunch soon?" I understand how hard it can be, and I didn't make all the best choices in that situation, and I try to hold on to it, and it. I had my faults in it, so I try and make sure to help them and not make the mistakes that I did,
Right.
and that's I think it's important to the path that God has me down. It's important to make sure that I share that path with others that one can do better than me, or two that are walking alongside it, that I can help them through it.
Mm.
That's huge, and thanks for answering that. And the thing is let's break that down for a second, right? Because it sounds very cliche. Like people's just like, well, just read your Bible and go to church, right? Like, let's break that down on why that's important. You read your Bible for, to learn about a God that loves you and that, wants to give you wisdom, wants to give you contentment, wants to give you joy, wants to give you all these gifts. And that comes with you knowing him. And so reading your Bible there and then going to church is putting yourself around people that can surround you and that can walk beside you. And I love that is it doesn't have to look like this awkward conversation of, man, won't you tell me about your feelings? Like, no, let's
Right.
let's go fishing, let's go hunting, let's use these things that men love to do. Let's go play golf and let's just talk. And man, way to love the guys around you with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the big thing that you hit on too is I had one of my friends that was like, "Oh yeah, I'm watching church online, like I'm still going." I'm like, "Well, no, man, the community of Christ and the community of God is
Mm.
such an integral part. Like, hey, it's great that you're getting the message and it's great that you're worshiping in your living room. Like, but you got to get out there and meet people where they are too, because that's how you
Yeah,
walk through
meet people
life.
in the
You got to
real
walk
world.
through life together.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we will continue this conversation, but we'll also pick up the book of Philippians.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Sawyer still hanging out with us down in Mississippi. We're going to do a little Bible reading and then we can have a discussion about it. So we're in Philippians chapter 1, starting with verse 27. Just as a reminder, Paul is in prison. The people of Philippi have brought him a gift and through Epaphroditus, and he's sending this letter back to them. And so here's what it says, verse 27. It says, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then, whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel, without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. This is a sign to them that they will be destroyed, but you will be saved, and that by God. For it has been granted to you on behalf of Christ not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for him.
Mm.
Since you are going through the same struggles you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. Dude, we didn't plan this. I wish we were that smart to have planned this, but
Yeah, we are
look at the context of this, like
Yeah.
after you just gave your story.
yeah,
Yeah,
that is
absolutely. And there are a few things that I take away from it, if you don't mind me sharing.
Go for it.
oh,
So Paul right there in verse 27. So as a military guy and kind of a history buff, I take after Josh and my old youth pastor Byron that I always try and look at the historical context of it, right? And the Roman Empire is a big thing back then, and right now we're talking about the persecution of the Christians and being in prison, and so I like to think that right here in verse 27, when he's talking about standing firm, striving together, there's an old Roman formation called the phalanx formation, to
Mm.
where you basically stood shoulder to shoulder, interlocked your shields, and it was a very hard formation to overcome. So I kind of like to think that that's kind of what he's talking about. That hey, the more people that you can get together and surround yourself with, the better that you'll be. And those trials that he talks about, you know, I see it as something that hey, again, you don't always do something wrong to go through a trial. Like it's not that God's mad at you or you've done something wrong. because we have to remember we live in a broken world. And it took me a
Mhm.
while to remember that, to see it. But in my view, in my mind, I like to think of it like, hey, kind of how I got through a lot of them was the people, but also knowing, hey, when I come on the other side of this, I'm going to be that much stronger. I'm going to have
Yeah.
that much more faith, and just keeping my eye on the prize of it.
Well, just even more history behind that. Philippi, where they were doing this ministry and they were doing all these things, dude, it was the retirement home for Roman soldiers. And so that was part of the problems that, the church at Philippi was running into is they were showing up going, "Hey, Jesus," and Paul was encouraging them, "Hey, Jesus is king." And these retired Roman soldiers didn't really care for that too much because they had watched their brothers, their fellow soldiers, they watched all them die in the name of the emperor,
Mhm.
and they just wanted to look at Caesar as king and not necessarily Jesus as king. And so that was, I love that you brought that up because that was kind of the uphill battle that the church was facing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love that it also goes in, it talks about whatever, it says whatever happens. And that, I didn't really pay attention to this when I was studying this earlier today. I just now realized it, but he says, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ.
Christ.
And I love that the main focus there is like whatever happens, no matter if I die, no matter if I live, no matter if life is good or life is hard, no matter which way it goes, whether I'm going through a divorce or I'm struggling with this, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. And that's something that you don't just get that right all the time, right? That's something that you've got to strive and work at. And I love that you pointed out, it's not just the people that you surround yourself with, but it's diving into God's word and that wisdom behind that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it was kind of funny. Like you shared, here's the passage we'll be going over, and I read through it, and I didn't really put two and two together that the testimony in this passage of scripture just kind of coincides. So
Uh-huh.
God's timing, man. It's all part of God's plan, and so
It's amazing when it comes together.
that's right.
Absolutely. Well, and even taking a look at like where you're going, right? Like, because you're making a run for office, and if you were to get this job, you'd be going to DC, and uh, that whole passage about without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. You didn't, and I love that you mentioned this earlier, of you didn't become a Christian to run for office. Like you were a believer long before you ever even that was even on the table remotely, right? And
Right.
the thing is you're not sitting here going, "Hey, I carry these values just so I can get more votes." No, this is your life. This is who you are. This is who you've been raised to be, and this is what God's done in your life. And you're wanting to take Jesus with you to Washington, right?
Absolutely, and it's something that's important to me that I don't lose myself in, and change who I am whenever I take on this role, because that happens a lot. And so for me, I have multiple people again that I know that if I start changing, if I start going down a different path, that those group of five that I've talked about, whether they're 5 minutes from me or 5 states away from me, I know for
Right.
a fact that I have those people that are going to be helpful to hold me accountable. And because again, there will definitely be trials that come, and like people may try and call me out. I may slip and fall. But my goal every day is to make sure, because my first allegiance is to God, and my
Yeah.
faith, and anything that comes after that. But at the end of the day, I've got to be able to go to sleep and put my head on the pillow, knowing that, hey, I did everything I could for God's kingdom today, and that's what it comes down to for me, because it's you don't get to. I mean, it's just like being a pastor. You don't get to turn it on and off. Wherever you go, you're a pastor. Wherever you go, this is what you're known for. And like I said
Mhm.
earlier, I don't want it to come off as disingenuine. It's an important part of my life, and somebody that I strive to be. And a lot of times those two roles don't go together. But I'm really hoping to bring a change and some energy to a public office
Yeah.
that people can look up to, and people can honor.
Well, and that's the thing too, is even what you just said, I don't know if you even caught it, right? Of you said, I don't want to be disingenuine. That's for the sake of your faith.
Mhm.
Like, you don't want people to look at this and go, "Well, he's just doing this to get my vote." No, you want people to look at this and go, "King Jesus is the way.
Right.
Mhm.
He's the way for me to live my life, and he's the only way that I can be content." Like, look at verse 29 that we just read, is he said, "Hey, it's on your behalf, not only for you to believe in him, but to also suffer for him."
Mhm.
Like, he's presenting suffering as a gift.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we get a privilege, and that doesn't sound like a privilege, does it? We we
No.
get we get a privilege to suffer with Jesus for our faith, and if you've got people, and I've said this before on the podcast, if you've got this group of people that are radically pursuing God to that level, to the point where they're even viewing suffering as a gift, there's nothing you can do to stop those people.
No,
Mhm.
absolutely. So we've been talking about the past couple of weeks in our church the Beatitudes, and one of them talks about blessed are those who are persecuted. And the pastor asked something that shook me to my core. He said, "Are you living your life in a manner that you're worthy of persecution for Christ?"
Mhm.
Um,
Oh,
and let me tell you, it hit me like a weight of bricks because I like to think I am, but if they're enjoying suffering and they're like Paul even says in 30, you were going through the same struggle you saw I had, and now here I still have. Like I'm still struggling. I'm still going through those issues. So it man, to have that kind of faith to where I can look at Paul and go, "Hey, I want to have the faith to where no matter what I'm going through, I go, hey, it's for God's glory."
yeah,
Um, that's huge, and I think like you said, it starts with those group of people. You've got to have those group of guys that you can get together. And again, it's not a, oh, hey, let's sit and talk about our feelings 24/7. Like just go
Yeah.
do things together and talk about life. And
yeah.
hey, feelings are going to come up. Feelings are a part of life, but and go golf, go grab a cup of coffee, go grab breakfast, have a men's grill group. Just to where, hey, let's grill
Hey,
once a month, to where we just hang out and talk about
I'm
life.
okay with that group.
forget all these workout groups. Let's go have
Yeah.
a grill group.
Go yeah.
Yeah.
I bet you never have another guy miss a group.
I mean, if
That's
he's
right.
screaming brisket, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Hey, it's like that show Meat Eater. It's Stephen
Yeah.
Ronelli. They go
Yeah.
hunting or fishing, and then they go cook it right after. I promise you'll have a blow up about the woodsman.
Well, and men, one big thing in a man's life, and I think it's important to recognize this, of men are all about what legacy that they leave, right? Like, everyone wants to leave a legacy. Why do you think like war movies are so popular, right? Because people want to, it's that thought process of, dying on the field of glory, being able to leave a legacy that people can look up to. And if you're following God and you're pursuing him and you're putting King Jesus at the front, like Paul's talking about here, Paul didn't know at this time that what his fate would be. We know that he gets executed by Rome later on, but Paul didn't know that obviously at this time because he couldn't see into the future. But one thing he said earlier in this chapter was, "Hey, to live is Christ, to die is gain." And it just brings me back to, like, you think about this year, like over this past year, we lost, two major modern people of the faith. One was Phil Robertson, and the other one was Charlie Kirk. And both of those deaths, as sad as they may be, both of those deaths moved the gospel forward
Mhm.
in massive, massive ways, and left a legacy. Left a, my TikTok is still covered with people in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk that are,
Yeah.
exploring their faith or exploring Jesus. That there's been post after post after post of, "Hey, I walked into church for the very first time," or, "I've opened my Bible for the very first time." And so, if you want to leave a legacy, pursue God.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
know I've talked about one, but I'll be remiss not to talk about the other. We talk about those two on the national stage, but in my personal life, those two heroes of the faith that have passed is Big Don, like I talked about, and then a gentleman, Walter Carpenter.
Uh,
Uh, he was somebody that uh, he had my brother in his group, grow in youth group, and then he had me in youth group, and he was a man that no matter what it was, the youth retreat, the Wednesday night, the Sunday for Bible school, Walter was one of those that growing up, and even to this day, I ended up getting to lead with him for a little bit. We both served in the youth at the same time that he ended up passing, and let me talk about two great legacies. I mean, those men. Um, they were huge in the faith, and they've left some great legacies behind. And so I just wanted to mention those two as well as a thanks for little tribute for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just goes to show that, what Paul talks about, to live as Christ, to die as gain. If I'm going to live here and I'm going to be here and I'm going to do everything in my power to leave a legacy, my family, the people around me, the people in my life. Hey, let's try to point them to King Jesus.
Mhm.
But if I die, I get to go be with the Lord. Which,
That's right.
if you go to a funeral of a person who's followed Jesus, like those funerals have a different feeling about
They
them,
do.
right? Because it's not Paul talks about in Thessalonians of like, hey, this isn't the end of our story. Like, this is literally for my life to end is just to usher me into the presence of my King.
That's right.
And it's just a different feeling for, when a believer like that dies.
Mhm.
For sure.
And just imagine, like, them 2 guys looking down, and they're known more for their Christ-like lifestyle
Yeah,
they live versus, you know, who knows what else they've done, but that's the way most people know them, and that to me would be the best legacy to leave behind,
yeah.
you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Well, and we strive for crazy. And you think about the things that we strive for, right? Like, it's all about being famous, or it's all about, let's even scale that down a little bit. Like, it's all about being, uh, y- the best at your job, or I want to get to the next level, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, or like Sawyer. Let's take your situation. Like, if you did win this race and you became congressman, right?
Not
Like,
did, when you win this race.
when you win this race, you become
That's
congressman,
right.
and le you know, 200, 300 years from now, people may have forgotten your name, right?
Right.
Like, I can't tell you who was, like, the representative of Tennessee in 18 I could look it up, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about making Jesus known. And like Paul's been dead for 2,000 years, and we're still talking about the things that he talked about.
And it the
Absolutely.
things that you did while you were here,
Yeah,
that one person leads to 3 people, then 3 people leave, to another 10. It's that pyramid
that
scheme,
legacy.
yeah, that legacy you're leaving because, yeah, it just makes my mind, like, thinking about students, especially with Sawyer on here, like, how many other students did you impact that you don't even know about? Because I've thought about it myself when I led students,
Yeah,
like, I question, like, I mean, I see some of the kids on social media and I go, I wonder if I had an impact. But, there's one kid I see, actually a few of them, and I go, I think if they didn't come, and not because of me, because of the way the students were together, their life would have been a totally different
radically
ballgame.
different.
Yeah.
When it's all about leaving that legacy, if you surround yourself, I love that quote that you gave from Byron of, hey, you need what was it? You need a Moses and
I'm
Aaron.
Moses and Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah, you need someone pouring into you. You need someone that you can go to and surround. And I'm gonna encourage people. If you live in a bit of isolation and you don't have that, look, we live in a world that's so virtual. You can have There's nothing wrong with a virtual Moses. Okay, like
Hmm.
there's people that you can look up to and you can study and you can. There's so many books and resources. Like, have some wisdom coming into your life, right? But at the same time, look for that someone who doesn't have anybody. Look for that someone who that is your Aaron, that is that person that you need to be pushing and loving and caring for. And it goes back to the same old things of love God and love others.
Hmm.
And what a world would we have if we would do that?
It'd be a different world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sawyer, man, thank you so much for joining us. We're
Yeah.
we're running up on time here, but dude, we're gonna be praying for you. Love you, dude. So proud of you and all that God's done in your life, man. And I know this is not. I know people say this before that He's not done with you, but I definitely like this is 100% genuine. He's not done with you, dude. And man, my prayer is that you get to walk into the walls of Congress, but you get to bring Jesus in that room with you.
Hmm.
And King Jesus leads it, and not anything else.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And I appreciate you guys and your invite to be on here tonight and be able to share the story. And I've been so excited watching this podcast grow and Josh watching you grow from my
Yeah.
seventh grade youth minister up to launching this ministry. It's been an honor to watch and support you. And I'm so proud of you guys and definitely will come up and visit soon. And I just want to thank you guys again for what y'all are doing for the kingdom. And I know it's got to be hard, late nights recording and out fishing, and not that that part's hard, but it takes a lot of work
We're
and
really
coordination.
we're really slaving up here, man.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Um, but hey, come on up here. We'll get you an orange Tennessee shirt and make you sing Rocky Top.
yeah.
That'll be a
We
tall
can-
order. We'll see what happens.
We got to somehow title this. Did we have a
Congressman on a
our
podcast? It could be. Could be. All right, guys. Well, as always, tell someone about Jesus this week. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Words with Woodsman podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. We'll see you next time.